needed a break from work, from screens, from the constant noise of life. So when Sarah suggested a weekend camping trip to Pine Hollow Forest, it sounded perfect. There were 5 of us: me, Sarah, Tyler, Mia, and Jake. We'd been friends since college, tight-knit, practically family. None of us had been to Pine Hollow before, but Sarah swore she'd heard about it from a coworker. Secluded, quiet, off-grid. No cell service, no distractions. We were sold. On the drive-in, the forest was beautiful. Towering pines kissed the sky. The air smelled of damp moss and pine needles. But there was something else. An odd stillness. No birds, no squirrels. Just silence. At the trailhead, I noticed a strange, weather-worn wooden sign, half buried under some moss. It read, "The Forest Remembers." We all laughed at it. I snapped a photo for fun. But something about that phrase stuck in my chest. A shiver ran up my spine, and for a moment, I hesitated. We should have turned back then, but we didn't. The first night was easy. We pitched our tents near a clearing, roasted marshmallows, and swapped dumb ghost stories around the fire. Everyone was relaxed, even playful. The sky was clear, stars glittering like someone had spilled diamonds. But at around 2 a.m., I woke up suddenly. Not to a noise, but the absence of one. No wind, no crackling fire, no breathing from the others. Just complete, unnatural stillness. Then I heard it, faint, software A whisper. Not the wind, not some animal. It said my name. Alex. I sat upright, heart racing, flashlight trembling in my grip. But when I peeked out of my tent, nothing, no movement. The forest stared back at me with lifeless eyes. The next morning, I asked the others if they'd heard anything. Jake shrugged. Mia said I must have been dreaming. But Sarah, she looked nervous. She said she thought she heard something too, but brushed it off. That night I realized we weren't alone. The second day was beautiful but eerie. We went hiking, followed the river upstream, and tried to enjoy nature. But the deeper we walked into the forest, the more it felt like we were being watched. Branches snapped when no one was there. Shadows moved where sunlight shouldn't reach. The whispers returned, this time during the day. No names, just unintelligible murmurs drifting through the trees. Tyler thought it was a prank. "Wind through the branches," he said, but his smile looked forced. That night, the whispers got louder, more distinct. Now they were calling each of us, one by one. Sarah, Jake, Mia, Alex. We all huddled around the fire, wide-eyed, each of us too scared to admit what we were hearing. I pulled out my phone to search for stories about Pine Hollow. Of course, there was no signal, but I downloaded an offline archive of old Reddit posts for research once. One post stood out. We lost my brother in Pine Hollow. He wandered off after hearing something. We searched for days. He was never found. Locals said, "The forest remembers." I believe them now. The forest wasn't just watching, it was choosing. The third morning changed everything. Tyler went to gather wood just after breakfast. He joked about how brave he was, walking alone. He never came back. An hour passed, then 2. We split up and searched for him, screaming his name through the trees. I kept expecting him to jump out and laugh, but as the sun dipped low, dread began to take over. At dusk we found his hoodie, torn, damp, snagged on a branch. No blood, no footprints, just the hoodie. That night, no one spoke. The fire crackled weakly as we stared into the dark. None of us slept. The whispers never stopped. Sometimes they sounded like Tyler, begging. Sarah sat with her back to a tree, knees to her chest, whispering to herself. I think she was praying, or listening. Whatever took Tyler, it wasn't finished with us. By day 4, paranoia consumed us. We packed our things and prepared to leave, but our cars wouldn't start. Dead batteries. Mia tried to use her emergency GPS. It glitched and froze. That's when Tyler walked into the clearing. We froze. His eyes were vacant, skin pale. He didn't look hurt, just wrong. He stared at us for a moment, then whispered, "The forest remembers." Then he vanished, just like that. One blink and he was gone. Sarah screamed, but it wasn't shock. It was guilt. She confessed. She'd been here before. Her brother vanished in Pine Hollow 5 years ago. She came back now hoping to understand what happened. She believed the stories. She never thought it would happen to us. But maybe she knew it might. We weren't just campers anymore. We were offerings. That final night was pure hell. The forest came alive. Voices from every direction. Shadowy figures circling our camp. We couldn't see them clearly, but they were close. Laughing, whispering, scraping against the tents. Sarah whispered over and over, "They're not people, they're echoes, shadows of those taken before." At 3:03 a.m., we heard a scream. Mia's tent was empty. Only her phone remained, screen cracked, camera still recording. We watched the last frame, a hand, black as ash, reaching for her. Jake lost it. He bolted into the woods with a torch. I never saw him again. That left me and Sarah. And then I was alone. At first light, I ran. I didn't take anything. I didn't look back. I just ran. Through branches, across streams, tearing through the thorns. I followed the trail, if there even was one. The whispers followed me. So did the shadows. After hours, maybe more, I stumbled out of the trees and into a ranger station. I collapsed, cried, begged for help. They said they'd search. They never found the others. Not even footprints. Not even a camp. I told them about the whispers. They looked at me like I was crazy. But one ranger, an older man, walked up, placed a hand on my shoulder and whispered, "You made it out, but they don't forget. Not ever. The forest remembers. And now, so do I." I've moved, started therapy, changed my number, burned the photo I took of the trailhead sign. But every night around 3:03 a.m., I hear it. Alex. Whispers in the hallway, a shadow just past the mirror. My lights flicker. My dog won't sleep in my room. Last week I found a note on my window ledge, weathered, mossy. Just 3 words burned into the paper. The forest remembers. So if you ever visit Pine Hollow, don't. And if you do, never answer the whispers, because once it knows your name, you're never really free. I'm not some survivalist or thrill seeker. I'm just a nature vlogger. I chase light, stillness, and untouched corners of the earth. That weekend, I needed quiet, a break from city noise, deadlines, and digital exhaustion. I picked Pinewood Reserve, remote, barely documented. Found it on an old hiking forum, buried between trip reports from years ago. It was supposed to be beautiful and forgotten. After hours of winding dirt roads, I finally found a clearing tucked off a rotting logging trail. So overgrown it didn't show up on satellite view anymore. Trees swayed gently, pine needles thick on the ground. I exhaled. Perfect. I set up my tent, launched the drone for aerial B-roll, and watched the sunset melt into the trees. That's when I noticed it. A splintered wooden post, buried beneath moss, about 10 feet from my sight. Looked like an old marker or grave stake. Weathered, hand-carved lines, maybe initials. Something about it felt intentional, like someone had once claimed this spot. I shook it off. Trees creak, wood rots, old hikers leave things behind. I got under my tarp, headlamp glowing, and caught a flash, just a flicker, off to the side. A glint between the trees, just my imagination. Right? What if I wasn't alone? As darkness set in, the forest changed. It's subtle, but real. The air got heavier, like it held its breath. Even the crickets went quiet, one by one. I chalked it up to normal forest behavior. I sat by my fire and let the time-lapse roll. Stars blinked into view above my tent. I remember smiling. This was the kind of peace I lived for. Back in the tent, I reviewed some clips. That's when I saw it. In the corner of the time-lapse, 2 tiny pulsing red lights, just for a few frames, half hidden behind a pine. I replayed it, zoomed in. They didn't blink like animal eyes. They glowed, synchronized, static. Maybe fireflies, maybe lens flare. Still, I felt exposed. Like something behind that screen was looking through the camera, not at it. I turned in early, telling myself I'd hike out if I still felt weird in the morning. I zipped the tent tight, but around midnight, there it was, slow, deliberate footsteps. 1, 2, 3, then silence. I whispered into the dark, thinking maybe it was a deer. I clicked on my flashlight. Nothing. In the morning, I checked the trail cam I'd left facing the woods. The red dots were there again. Only this time, they were closer. Something was watching and getting bolder. Sunlight did little to shake the feeling. I brewed instant coffee, eyes flicking constantly to the tree line. Birds were back, yes, but something still felt wrong. I opened my laptop and scrolled through the footage, frame by frame. The more I looked, the more I noticed. Shapes, long limbs just barely visible. Dangling fingers that reached down like roots. Too long, too thin, almost posed. Whatever it was, it wanted to be seen, but only through the lens. Disturbed, I turned to Reddit and local forums. Most results were noise, ghost stories, creepypasta. But one caught my eye, a 10-year-old post titled, "Do not film Pinewood. Red Watcher lives through the lens." Only one reply. Once you capture it, it captures you. My stomach dropped. That night, I set up motion sensors, PIR alerts that beep when movements detected. I couldn't sleep. Every hour they chirped. I'd flash my light, rush out, and see nothing. But when I reviewed the recordings, it was there, closer, always closer. At one point, I spotted it behind my own reflection in the camera's lens. I was no longer just observing. I was being studied, and part of me needed to see it fully. The third night, I couldn't take it anymore. I kept the camera on standby. Sensors primed. I stayed dressed, boots laced, flashlight in hand. At 2:47 a.m., everything hit at once. The sensors shrieked in succession. 1, 2, 3, all around the tent. I burst out into the clearing, heart pounding, camera rolling. The air had changed. It wasn't just cold, it was still, suffocatingly still. Like the woods were watching. Twigs cracked unnaturally to the east. I spun toward the sound, camera raised. In my screen, something stepped forward. It wasn't there in real life, only on the display. A figure, gaunt, impossibly tall. Skin stretched thin like paper bark. Eye sockets glowing red like deep coals. And the smile. It was impossibly wide, stretched to its ears like its skin was splitting. I gasped, lowered the camera. Nothing. Lifted it again, closer. Right there, inches from the lens. Then I heard it, breathing. Not from the screen, from beside me, hot, ragged. I couldn't run, I couldn't speak. Even the trees stood still. By first light, I was breaking camp like a madman. I needed out. But the trail was gone. The landscape didn't match any GPS. Trees I swore I'd passed earlier were now arranged differently. My compass spun like it was possessed. I tried filming to retrace my steps, but the screen kept leading me in spirals. Every time I followed the camera, I went deeper. The footage seemed to shift paths subtly, just enough to guide me off course. Then I remembered the forum post. It lives through the lens. I was being led, not by the forest, but by the Red Watcher. It had leashed itself to my camera. Every time I pointed it outward, I was giving it control. I dropped the camera, left it behind like it was cursed, navigated out by sun and instinct, scratched, bruised, dehydrated. I found my car. I made it out. But the story doesn't end there. Back home, the footage uploaded itself. My YouTube notifications went insane. Thousands of views. Then, silence. The comments began disappearing. Accounts wiped. Some of my followers gone entirely. Their pages blank, erased. Then, last week, I was filming a casual vlog. In the playback, it was behind me. Just for a frame, that face, that grin. Not in the woods anymore, in my mirror, watching from inside the shot. And now I know. Once it finds a lens, it doesn't stop watching. So if you're watching this now, if something flickers at the corner of your screen, don't rewind, don't freeze frame, turn off your device, walk away. Because it's not just me anymore. Now you are being watched.